looking at my budget, looking at roughly 70 paid coaches, another 70 volunteers roughly, 140 staff members that I oversee directly. I don't know if we have that money to do that. I can sit with Mr. Simonetta. We can discuss it further if we need to. Not many schools are paying that money for those coaches in that course. But this is going to be mandatory through the PIAA. It will be logged by the PIAA, so if a coach comes into our district, I will be able to go online and see that they passed their certification. If a coach leaves us and goes somewhere else, and they pass the course, they will be permitted to coach in that district. So with that movement, I'm not sure if it is feasible and viable for us to pay for that coursework. I have not selected what course we will offer to our coaches. The athletic directors in our conference, all 18 of us, are exploring ways to make that feasible on a Saturday, Sunday, through Saturdays, evenings, and so on. But that is right around the corner now for us in 2016 to start that process. In addition to the clearances and the act that we have to follow on the 20th with having our coaches certified and our 3-hour training. So a lot around the corner are coming up for us.
Just a question both for you and Mr. Cook. Are you both pleased with the launching of the EPC this year? You feel that things have gone well for the first year of the new league?
I'll let Mr. Cook speak first.
Yep.
Besides the fact that someone's always on a 2-hour delay or we're probably in the same category, but I think the athletic directors, as we knew going into this, we're going to have to do a ton of work. And although their meetings are laborious and quite lengthy at times, there's a lot of things that come along with starting a new organization. So those things can be expected. And so we've had a few instances where we weren't pleased with certain situations, but nothing that we couldn't work through and nothing that we can't fix for the future. So I would say, at this point in time, we are seeing more opportunities. With the divisions being larger, there's more opportunities for some of our teams who may not have advanced in the Lehigh Valley Conference to advance in the East Penn Conference. And so that's really what it's all about, is providing our student athletes with opportunities. I think the expansion of the league, or the creation of a new league in itself, has given us the opportunity to do that. So of course there's growing pains, but I would say by the number being so low, that there has been quite a bit of work that's been done to get this off to a smooth start. So overall, I would say that we are pleased with the progress thus far, but we've only been through fall. So we haven't had our meeting yet to discuss winter. One of the things I do want to highlight and emphasize, though, Mr. Reiner, since you give me the opportunity, is I would love to focus in on the Student Athletic Conference committee that our students serve on, and the work that those students are doing right now. It's more of a regional approach. So you have 18 schools with representatives from each of those schools working collaboratively as young adults to bring positive sportsman messages back to their schools, and they also have some community outreach. So right now they're actually going to be starting on their philanthropy goals, and they're going to be providing resources to Lehigh Valley Hospital. It's kind of like Ronald McDonald House. It's Beckham, I believe it's called. But they host families who are going through different struggles at the medical center. They may need to be there for 4 or 5 or 6 days. And so what they've done is they put a challenge out to all the winter sports athletes to provide these resources, whether it be cabinet foods or whether it be movies or things like that to keep people entertained and busy, as to form a competition amongst their own internal sports teams to donate these products. And so we're really looking at helping the region with those things, and it gives kids an opportunity for more leadership, gives students more opportunity out there to meet other people outside of Easton and work collaboratively with them. So I'd love to highlight that specific point. And the other piece to it is just the extracurricular activities. So we are in charge of Model UN, and we will embark on Lehigh University, and it'll be a great competition. Chess. You were there, Mr. Reinhardt, for debate. You saw how involved students are just in debate as they are in football. And so the same thing rings true for many of those other extracurricular activities as well. So EPC is off to a positive start.
As an athletic director, our student athletes are learning directions in geography. Route 33, Route 209, mountains, valley, good weather, bad weather. They're learning. And parents are learning to leave a little earlier to get to where they need to go. Okay? I have a basketball game going on at the middle school against Northampton boys, so I'm going to step out unless you have any questions. I think the only board action I would need is on the athletic code, probably at the next board meeting, and then Mr. Simmons and I can discuss the coaching education down the road and what we can do there.
You have to raise your revenue.
Can't bring much more in. I'm trying. Yes, Mr. Finnegan.
Jim, I apologize for being out a couple times during your presentation. Did I miss, was it mentioned, what we spoke about briefly with PIAA and the playoffs and how funny, we did that? Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
That whole policy from District 11 is listed on how they exactly reimburse us, what our figures look like this year to date, and then the last year for 5 years I think I have listed.
All right, I'll look over it then. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Thank you.
Is there any public be heard? On athletics? Summary for the athletics.
Mr. Case? You got that? Mr. Case already is aware of it.
Okay.
Yeah, we turned all the mics off for you to get sound on Ustream. So hopefully that improved everybody at home. I think everybody here can hear each other at this point.
Okay. Okay.
I don't remember anybody saying we wanted people to really hear what's going on. Thank you, Jim.
First, to comment on what Mr. Reinhardt said about one of the issues. The major issue is parking. I think I'm just going to throw this out there. If we can work with the city of Easton with the new parking garages being built, and also land a bus company, maybe we can work in something where they can shuttle people from Carnahan Stadium down back and forth to the parking garage to maybe decrease the parking trouble that we have over there by the Carnahan Stadium. So I just want to throw that out there. Maybe we can look at that somehow. Just a suggestion. Summary. Great achievement for the Booster Club. Donated $117,223. Also, the revenue collected was $188,109 out of the $200,000 proposed. That was great. And also, Mr. P spoke on the code of conduct. We'll be hearing more of that in time to come, and that is it.
Academics, Ms. Price.
Okay, Mr. Sheffield and Mr. Beecher will be giving us an update on student football.
Thank you. A couple items that I would like to share. Basically, FYIs, just for your information. Board action would be needed on probably one or two items at the next board meeting. But I wanted to share a few things with you. We have a professional training update coming on child abuse, which will take place next week, just as an FYI. I don't know if you can tell, but the number of times that I've spoken, I am very passionate about kindergarten and the children that enter into the kindergarten program. I think in order for our children to get to the point where they are graduating and selecting fine institutions that you've heard about this evening, we need to make sure that when they come to school, they come in a level playing field. And when we get into school, that they're prepared for the child from the next zip code. So it is kind of a passion of mine, and wanted to report on a few things that are happening on the kindergarten registration front. Kindergarten Transition Committee, we held a snowball breakfast for incoming kindergarten children, and the bottom line of this is our interest is make sure we reach out to those children that are kindergarten age to begin next year, that we reach out to them as early as possible. We actually had a festival in the fall. This one on Saturday at Cheston Elementary School. It's about an hour and a half long. We had 130 people there, a number of staff. We did invite 30 new students to come into our school district. I had high hopes of we'd be well over 100. I'll take 30. That's great to have 30 families join us. An event like that. I've been raised an Estonian. I'm a rather competitive person. I'm probably more competitive with myself than with anyone else. And the bottom line is, if we don't start knocking on the door and being friendly to the incoming families that are coming to our district, we're going to lose them to local charter schools, we're going to lose them to parochial schools, and we're going to lose them to private schools. In order for us to keep those children, at least invite them in, is become more friendly and actually do some grassroots stuff. That's like walking streets, knocking on doors, and saying, hey, is your child of kindergarten age? Please come to our district. We have a great program for you. And that's part of what this kindergarten transition committee is doing. And I don't like losing to a lot of people, and my goal is that if we can invite them in and show them how friendly we are, we're going to keep them before the next charter school knocks on the door. Kindergarten registration. We have that scheduled. It's going to be a one-day event in each one of our schools. That's why we're gathering the names as early as possible. That's why we started in the fall. So there's a bank of children that we can invite their parents to come to our school on a given day. So each elementary school will have a day by which basically we roll out the red carpet, invite them to school, show them what it's like to be in a school. One caveat on that day. In order for us to save some money, we're actually going to ask the kindergarten children of that school not to come to school that day, so the teachers are available to assess the incoming kindergartners, and the kindergarten rooms are available for the kindergarten children to see. So their parents and they become familiar with the school personnel, as well as administrative staff, school counselors, nurses. They get to see them all on that given day. We have a number of ideas and the ways in which we can reach these kindergarten children and their families, and that's what we're looking at doing, and that begins at the end of February. So we'll be bringing in our incoming kindergarten children. I don't know if you have received any feedback with reference to the next FY, and that's the modified kindergarten schedule. We've had one delayed start, the 2-hour delay. We bring in AM kindergarten. We turn around and bring in the PM kindergarten children. So both sessions attend school on a day when we have a 2-hour delay. Any feedback, positive or negative? It's been okay so far? Our bus drivers are able to make that happen, which is greatly appreciated. This way, by the end of the school year, we don't have an event where AM kindergarten has more sessions than PM or PM has more than AM.
That was a real problem last year. I mean, lots of parents, I'm sure you got calls on this. By the end of the school year, towards the middle of spring, let's say, it was pretty obvious that, you know, I think it was morning kindergarten really significantly lost instruction time. So really appreciate our ability to work this out. This is great.
It's just a small story. We've collected data for probably 15 years of actually 1-hour delays, 2-hour delays, and also going home early due to inclement weather. And what you'll see over that time, because we have a pretty good idea, more technology, more advanced weather forecasting, we go home infrequently early. We happen to come in later more frequently, because we have a good idea that if we're going to get some bad weather, we're not bringing the children into school. So what we're finding is that we had a disparity or a difference in the number of morning kindergarten sessions versus PM. So hopefully going to be addressing that issue through this kind of schedule. Lafayette's women's basketball. It's just an update for you. The Patriot League, and Lafayette participates in the Patriot League, is doing something during the January term. All the schools in the Patriot League are inviting elementary children to a basketball game, for the women's basketball game. I was approached about the end of November by Scott Morse, who works in the athletic department at Lafayette College, and basically wanted to invite our children, elementary children, to a Lafayette women's basketball game. Thought it was a great idea, had an opportunity to meet the basketball coach, George Bright is the athletic director, and a number of other people at Lafayette College. And the biggest challenge is they have Kirby Field households around 2,600, and they said, we'd like you to fill it. And I said, that's great. We could do, so I was looking at the numbers and how many kids we could bring. I thought, well, how about 2,100 children? Yeah, that sounds great. So meanwhile, my eyes were rolling. I'm thinking, this is awesome. Well, then I got thinking about the logistics. I didn't get a degree in logistics, but I have enough knowledge to realize 2,100 children from school to a day game, not a night game, a day game, and get them back to school. That requires a lot of buses. So I sat down, started to calculate that. I worked with Ron Pacioli, And we were able to, I think we were able to make that work. We've actually, Ron and I have gone to Lafayette College. We've talked to George Bright. We're closing off, and for the residents of College Hill, I apologize, closing off some of the streets so that we get our buses in there, drop the children off. We have entrances and exits to the Kirby Fieldhouse. So we're in the process of making that work. The other piece that's really neat about this is the young ladies and coaches are going to our elementary schools and they're meeting with second, third, and fourth grades. And what they're doing is they have some things that we've worked on. Reading is one thing that's really important, and they're stressing that each time that they meet with our children in schools. So they have the same theme about reading. They also talk a little bit about basketball. The young ladies talk about their major, why they selected the major, what their goals are through college. So it's kind of a neat experience. And I'll tell you, I've gone to Cheston Elementary School on Friday, went to Paxton today. It's really exciting not only to see the children participate in this, but at the end of the day, and I was at Cheston on Friday, the students were talking about the young ladies that were there. And they're looking forward to seeing them play then at a day game, which will be next week. So that is happening, and what is amazing about it, you have nurses have to get involved because we have a number of children with specific medical plans. So we have our nurses involved in this. Obviously, the bus drivers, probably 43 buses to get all the second, third, and fourth grade children to the game and get them back. We've got Chartwell's in the process of taking care of lunches, so it's a rather large event. And I think this is just the beginning of what I would like to see happen in the future, and that's a great cooperative effort with Lafayette College, one of our neighbors, one of our institutions that certainly could be of great help to our district. Two more FYIs and then I'll be finished. Elementary track and field meet. This is something that goes on every year at Easton High School. We have about 40 students from each elementary school, and what they do is they participate in an all-day track and field meet at the high school. That will happen again this year. It's in a little briefing, the briefing that Mr. Vitro and I sent to Mr. Reinhardt. That'll happen in May, where the students, the bus drivers, take them from the elementary school, they take them to the high school, they participate in outstanding events. At the end, awards, ribbons are given. The children then go back to their elementary school. So I just wanted to give you an FYI that is coming up. And that will, again, that will occur sometime in May. Let me back up, I apologize, I did forget this one. If you take a look at school policy, there is something that says you have to approve all of the field trips. Because we didn't meet a board meeting in December, the field trip going to Lafayette College is not able to be approved in time. So, and the reason we had to wait is because we had to make sure we could get 43 buses in and out of Lafayette College. I apologize to go backward. Mr. Pintabone, I'm not quite sure how we can...
What's the date of the trip again? I'm sorry.
It's Wednesday, 21st. Tomorrow. Is it? 21st.
I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll adjourn this meeting. I can't do that. I can't do that.
That would,
Can we retroactive? Yeah, to just go back and ratify that. Yeah. Retroactive, can we do that?
Although if this were advertised as a meeting where we could conduct any other business.
That was your first meeting.
Let me give Mike the $10 next time.
We'll look into it. If we can't do it today, then we'll go back from...
Thank you. I apologize for that, not meeting in December. Thank you. There is one item, and you'll see it will come up a little bit later in the agenda. The school calendar. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
We're going to do that vote, but first we're going to let you finish.
Thank you. Do have there actually we'll go through a little piece. I will be turning it over to Ms. Amelie. Just wanted to share with you that we will be asking for board action on a calendar change. The calendar is actually for this year. There are two items that will need to change on that calendar. One item that we need to change, we need to move the parent-teacher conference from one of the weeks that it was scheduled. We're moving it 2 weeks later, so not to conflict with the English Language Arts PSSAs. We're already taking care of it for the 2015-16 calendar, but we need to move the parent-teacher conferences, which will not affect the report cards. It won't affect things going home. What it'll do actually is just moving it 2 weeks later. The other item, which we did administratively today to decide, to take the February in-service day and make that a school day for children to make up the day that we lost yesterday. And if you go back to the last revised approved calendar, the February in-service was one of the days we could use as a make-up day. So I will ask that that calendar go to the school board meeting in January for approval for those two changes.
Mr. Steckel, the 5 days that are on there for parent-teacher conferences, are those 5 half days?
Mr. Monahan, those are 5 half days. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Certainly. At this point, if we may, I would like to have Ms. Amelie talk about something that we'd like to discuss a little bit further at another time, and we can take care of the calendar before or after Mr. Vitro does her report.
Just wanted to give the board a brief update on the administration's discussions regarding full-day kindergarten. I know that that's a discussion that's gained a lot of momentum around the Valley. I can assure you that's a discussion that's gained a lot of momentum as well in our administrative team meetings. So briefly, just to share with you our discussions at this time, right now center around our 3 Title I schools, and we are having conversations administratively as to how we would feasibly put together a full-day kindergarten program at our 3 Title I schools. Our discussions right now obviously center around finances and how we can make this work. But being that this is a discussion that's gained such momentum, we wanted to just tell you at this time, you will be hearing about this in the very near future at a committee meeting from us with our recommendation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't think I'll be as exciting as Mr. Steckel with all these things going in elementary, so excuse me. But I have 3 updates. Cyber School I'll do at the end. That's a PowerPoint presentation. And I want to just provide you some background on what will be coming up in future academic and ed and/or policy meetings. Mr. Cuck and I and the high school science coordinator are looking very closely at the high school science curriculum and course sequence. Our students take the Keystone Biology exam in 10th grade, and currently we've been looking and researching at the science curriculum. 9th grade, we're looking at possibly proposing a 9th grade physical science course, which would be some chemistry and physics to prepare our students for 10th grade biology, 11th grade chemistry, and 12th grade physics. So we are looking into that, and we will again do some more research, talk about this with our teachers, and bring it forward in another policy and academic committee. Any questions on that? Okay. We are also, as an administrative team in the central office, we have had several discussions on the 4 units of math and science requirement. That actually will take place, for those of you who are new to the board, for the class of 2016, which is next year. We were looking at numbers, and our students actually take, 82% of our students at Eastern Area High School, this senior class, are actually taking 4 years of math, whereas almost 80%, I think it's 78%, are taking 4 years of science. So we have a really high percentage of our students that are already taking 4 years of math and science. But we also have to look at financially what we are able to do as a district. When you require all of your students in that senior class next year to take a 4th year of math and science, it is going to require additional teachers. And we're possibly looking at least 3 additional teachers, which is over $300,000. We're also, as Alyssa said, looking at full-day kindergarten. So these are things that are going to be coming up in the next academic and ed policy, as well as, academic and ed committee meeting and policy meeting. Because it is a change of policy if we look to go in that direction.
When this comes up, just for falls on deaf ears now because the majority of the board who pushed for math and for sciences are no longer with us today. But when this vote, I think it was myself and Ms. Matthews that voted no for the for math, for science. Reason being, for the people who aren't aware, is all of our administrators said no. No, don't do it, we don't recommend it, for some of the same reasons why we're hearing what we're hearing today. Unfortunately, at that time, we had board members who knew more than our administrators who thought they did, and it was implemented. So if everybody can please do as much research as possible, you'll get information from Mr. Vitro. We essentially began a program that every one of our administrators, superintendent included, told us we should not do. And I'm hoping that, I spoke and said, we need to listen to our administrators, but again, the board knew better. And I hope we don't make that mistake again. So if we can please, pay attention to that and get the information from Mr. Vitro, really look over it, so we don't make the same mistake we did 2 years ago. Thank you.
Yeah, if I could just add, that's a local requirement. In other words, there's no requirement on the state or federal level that says our students have to take 4 and 4. But the board wanted to do that at the time, as Mr. Pinnabone said. And I walked away from our conversations both with administrators in the school district, with the board in general, and also with parents, with I think over the last 18 months or so, with a clear understanding that one of the priorities that we have is to try to impact on that early childhood education piece. And so I think what we have to do is reevaluate that, as Mr. Pinnabone said, and decide whether that really needs to be a priority, 4 and 4, or whether we take more funds and try to work at that early childhood stuff.
So that'll be a discussion. I just wanted to put that out there so that you're aware that we are discussing this at a
And just prior, and I know you will, but just to reiterate, prior to the discussion, if you could just disseminate as much information to the board, especially since, as I said, a lot of the board members weren't here for the first time around, so they can familiarize themselves.
Sure. I just
Thank you.
wanted to give you an FYI so that you know what we've been
Absolutely.
looking into and working on. Before I do the cyber school presentation, Mrs. Amelia just wanted to do an East Area Academy update quickly for you. Just wanted to share some information about Eastern Area Academy. Currently, the Eastern Area Academy program, it falls under the Pennsylvania Department of Education's Alternative Education for Disruptive Youth Guidelines, so what's called the AEDY guidelines. That services kids who fall within 7 criteria that are set forth by the state of Pennsylvania. The department is having discussions at this time about re-releasing guidelines which will exclude potentially at least one of those categories of students. And that would be the students that qualify based on habitual truancy. This is a significant portion of students that qualify at Eastern Area Academy fall within the habitually truant population. So we have had, as an administration and the counseling team at Eastern Area Academy, we've had discussions since learning this information about developing a program which runs simultaneous to our AEDY program, but also allows us to broaden our scope of students that we serve. So we would be able to serve students who may not qualify under those AEDY guidelines, but still, from an alternative education standpoint, require additional support because the interventions that have been attempted in their home school haven't been as successful as we'd like them to be. So I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention because it is something, a bit of a change in practice of how we may operate Eastern Area Academy. It will not require any additional staffing. It will not require any additional funds. It will not increase the number of slots of students that we're able to serve, but it will broaden the scope of the type of student that we're able to assist and support. So I just wanted to be able to share that with the board this evening. Does anybody have any questions regarding that?
Thank you, Ms. Amelia.
And cyber school. I wanted to provide you an update as to where our subcommittee is and where we are going. Just want to tell you who's actually on our subcommittee. It's Mr. Painel, Ms. Price, and Mr. Snyder, as well as myself, Mrs. Mealy, Ms. Peters, and Ann McIntyre, she's a technology person. So we've been working very hard, and we actually came up with a mission statement. And again, this is a mission statement. This is something that we're looking at in the future to develop for Eastern Area School District. The Eastern Area School District will provide a fully implemented cyber program which will increase curricular opportunities for all students through a learning management system. You will see that referred to as an LMS. EASD will offer cyber and online courses, including courses that are currently not offered through Eastern Area School District. And the Eastern Area School District Cyber School option will allow students to maximize learning opportunities as well as to earn Eastern Area High School. Okay. We decided as a group what kind of areas we need to look at and what is best for our students and what this cyber education can provide to them. One of our main goals, and you'll see, and I think it's the next slide, is to bring our students back to Easton and provide them with cyber school coursework. So provide online learning via Easton Area Cyber School to reinstate students who have voluntarily left our district for one reason or another to attend independent cyber schools, and that costs the district a lot of money. Test prep and remediation, you can see what's listed there. We can provide that to our students as well instead of outsourcing them, and enrichment opportunities, advanced placement courses, elective courses. While they're actually in school as well, we can do a blended learning option, and then alternative placements. We can provide coursework for students who are on suspension, expulsion, and what they call TME placements, which were homebound instruction. Okay. Right now, currently, our online cyber school status. As of October 1st, there are 134 Eastern Area School District students who are enrolled in cyber charter schools. There's 114 regular ed students and 20 special ed students. And you'll see with the next slide, the cost, there's a difference in the cost of regular ed versus special ed. We do not at this time provide a full-time cyber school or blended learning option for our students in Easton. And we do not have a cyber school infrastructure to manage the online opportunities at this point. And this is our cost. For a regular ed student, it costs $10,636.47 to educate one student in cyber school. Cost for special ed is more than double, $21,545.46. So for the 14-15 school year, we are paying out currently $1,643.48 in cyber charter tuition. It does not include brick and mortar charter schools. That's just cyber. So it doesn't include the brick and mortar students. Our subcommittee was established in November. We had a blessing of the board to move forward with that. We held 2 meetings thus far. We were supposed to have one Monday, but the weather was canceled, and we are planning to have another one February 4th. The following board members, as I had mentioned, are part of the committee as well as the administrators. And we are continuing to meet throughout the school year to try to provide a cyber school program, hopefully by the start of the next school year. We looked at phases, how we can phase this in. We did not put a number of years on each phase, but obviously phase 1, we're looking at providing online course offerings, review and analyze current programming and resources that we have, research vendor services to support the district's need and program vision, look at long-range strategic planning, and of course marketing of the program to recruit students back to our cyber school program. Phase 2, review and refinement of strategic plan, implementation of additional programs to increase options for our students, continued marketing to bring students back, and actually to provide our students in school with a blended learning option, and opportunities available for teachers through ESU or the IE20 to be trained in online teaching so that they can actually teach courses out of Eastern Area School District. And then the last phase, again, continued review and analysis of our cyber programs that we're offering, and continual expansion of online options for students. You can see them there. And of course, continued marketing of programs and recruitment of students. Lastly, moving forward, we're looking at, that's okay, February 17th, we're looking at bringing 4 vendors in at the next academic and ed committee meeting for the board to hear what they have to offer. VLN Partners is one, Blended Schools Network, Eduseer, and Hebrews Academy. So we'll have those presentations for you at the next academic and ed meeting. And we'll look to see which ones are best fit our needs in Easton and make a decision after that. That's it for my presentation. I don't know if you have any questions for me at this time.
One question I have, why so much of a difference in cost between a degree student and a special ed?
PDE actually provides that information, and Jamie, I'm not sure with the cost of special ed, why it's double the cost.
There's additional services provided in special ed, so
Yeah.
I'm assuming at this point that that's going to be charged.
What kind of service would you need to provide?
There's learning support services that are provided, so additional supports in order for the student to access the cyber school itself. So it would be something in terms of what we would do if we had our own cyber school. We would have additional support to provide to those students to make sure their IEP is being implemented and SCIs are being delivered.
So you're probably talking about things like software that will, speech recognition software, things like that. Stuff that will read text back to the student, other forms of any peripherals because of voter issues or things like that. That's probably what would again, it would have to probably meet what the IEP specifies. Yeah, it is.
And the cost analysis, just for your information, because you asked, is found on the PDE website. It's under the cyber charter funding. PDE sets the rate for regular ed and special ed. We have no choice, in what we have to pay out. And like Jamie said, as Peter said, we have to do accommodations, and the cyber school has to provide those accommodations, SDIs, anything that the student needs to be successful, and we internally have to provide that for our Eastern students, so externally cyber schools have to provide that. It's an extra cost. So that's the funding they came up with. But it is a big difference.
I just have a comment for both you and Mr. Steckel. Both comments really revolve around aggression. I had a chance to meet with Mr. Beecher and Mr. Ramos there.
You're going to be aggressive?
But it has to do with, about the cyber school. And Mr. Beecher set a really aggressive timeline to get this thing done. And I think it's going to be it's very beneficial. There's no more of the feet dragging on different things. Not saying we did on cyber, but, in the past, we have been known as a district who drag their feet on some things. So, it's a very aggressive timeline. I mean, to the point where I'm not really involved, and I had to get myself moving to add some things to do my part towards the end. So I thank you for that. I know it's going to come to pass very well and quickly. And same thing for Mr. Steckel. Your aggressive approach to getting these kids in our building. I think that's huge. From the grassroots, it's big. Charter schools, cyber schools, they're doing it. And it's good that we have people that are, informing the community of how good our school is and the benefit of sending your kids to Eastern Area School District. So that is huge. I'd love to hear the plans that you guys are doing and implementing. That is great, and it's just really going to help our district going forward. So thanks.
Any other questions? Any more questions from the board? Any questions? No questions? Okay. I have just a comment to make. I just wanted to thank you for I was able to go to this Noble breakfast on Saturday. It was really nice. It seemed to be well attended. It's also nice they had early childhood providers there also, so that could help parents that have younger children start the process of getting into preschool as well as going into kindergarten. And I just thought it was really nice. And in Lafayette, there was also lots of, the mail was there and there was pictures. It was also nice that they got to name the dog. Name the rover. Okay, so that was my little comment. So there's a lot to talk about today. Basically, the, discussed the.
He has a public
I'm sorry, just a question, I'm sorry, come on.
I did want to say something
Okay.
in the public discussion.
Sorry, I did not see you, Mr. Kennedy.
No, it's my fault. I misunderstood your invitation. Thank you, Mr. Vito. That's excellent, an excellent start, I think, in terms of sorting out what needs to be done for the cyber education and blended education. I would caution you about the vendors you'll hear. They learn to say all the right things, and everything will sound great, and they'll take it all over from you if you allow them to. And the vision I have is the teachers being the arbiter of what happens in cyber education, and actually becoming, every teacher becoming the director of learning. And I would hope that teachers would begin to embrace this model and ensure their own futures as well. There's a lot of stuff, especially math education, already online. A lot of courses are basically free, but you have to have people who can manage the program and bring in, know when to hold them, know when to pull them, as it were. Willing to pay for something when they need it, and this is going to be a great challenge for the administrators to determine exactly how this would work. But the rewards are great. Could mean the difference between keeping schools open, closing schools, and all sorts of things into the future. I didn't hear any talk about cyber school computer programming courses. I hope that will come up, and I hope that the computer coding will become available to all your students in about the fourth grade on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Goodman.
All right, so, then, we talked about the K-6 update, with, about kindergarten registration coming up and the activities, leading up to kindergarten registration. Second and third graders and fourth graders will be going to Lafayette for the basketball game at Kirby Field, and that's on Wednesday, and we're going to be talking about that very soon. And then the 7th to 12th grade update, going to be talking about the 4 units of math and science. I think we're going to be talking about that next board meeting.
So you're moving that to the next, are you keeping that in committee?
I guess we should keep it in committee. Yeah, we should keep that in committee.
So it's going to stay in committee.
Mm-hmm. And then with on the February 17th, at the committee meeting, 4 vendors will be presenting. And also at the next board meeting, we're going to be talking about the calendar, revised calendar, and voting on that. So that's basically about it. Yeah.
Ms. Price, just for clarity for the record,
Yes.
so cyber school is going to go to the next committee meeting.
Yes.
The calendar is going to the next board meeting,
Yes.
and K through 12 is just an update.
Okay.
Is that
Lots of
correct?
updates.
Okay.
Yep.
I just want to make sure I'm clear
Yeah,
so
that's
they can
a
update.
lot of stuff today.
Yeah.
I do have a question about the K through 6 program. I know that we're doing great things. I think that's awesome. Is there somewhere in that plan where we actually help parents guide their children a little bit more? I know there's been a big disconnect with that in our community, especially at that level. Even if it's something like bullet points or some kind of a educational program for the parents, I think they
For the selection
for the K through 6, all the students, that all this update program that's going on in the grassroots and pulling them in. I mean, there's a lot of work with it. I just don't want the parents to be left behind.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Price. Before we move on to policy, can I have a motion to to reopen the special board meeting that we closed previously? Second? All those in favor? Opposed? All right. We're going to reopen the special meeting, and the purpose is we have an addendum to approve the elementary school's field trip to Lafayette College on Wednesday, January 14th, 2015. Can I have a motion to approve? It's all college here. You should be happy.
You gotta go around.
And that is true. Did you take the people in consideration at College Hill?
I did not.
Nobody came to my door to ask.
Take that to the grassroots.
There you go. And do I have a motion? Second?
You had a motion.
All those in favor? I'm sorry. Any public comment regarding this? All right. All those in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Can I have a motion to adjourn? Motion. Second. All those in favor? Special meeting closed again. Back to the regular standing committee meeting, number 4, policy, Mr. Snyder.
Thank you. Mr. Mealy will brief us on some policy changes with 806. Thank you.
Thank you. Policy 806, our child abuse policy, is a complete rewrite from the old policy, the one that we have currently approved by the board. And this rewrite is based on the new Child Protective Services law that went into effect on December 31st of 2014. So the old policy is null and void as it currently stands, and the new policy that is being presented this evening walks through a number of different changes that I'll just share briefly with you. Many of the definitions under the CPSL are changed, so those are listed within the policy. There is now an annual provision of written mandatory reporting procedures to all employees. This is a procedure that I developed in conjunction with this policy that has been shared out with all of our employees as a result of the changes. That was shared out with them upon their return to school after the winter break. The policy also outlines the training of district employees. There is now a mandatory training that must occur for all school district employees within every 5 years. I chose this law, I think went into effect in 2013. I opted not to have our employees trained until this coming January 20th next week because of all of the changes that went into effect on December 31st. So we will be training under the new law next week at our in-service for all school district employees, whether it be teachers, paraprofessionals, custodial maintenance, transportation, our bus drivers. Everyone that works in our school district must go through this training. It's a 3-hour training. That presentation or that training, as an aside, will be delivered by 4 of our principals at 4 different locations simultaneously, so that we're able to accommodate about 250 to 300 people at each training site. Along with that training and along with the procedures that were developed and this policy, there were also a number of different handouts and charts to help everyone walk through the new reporting procedure for child abuse. There was a significant change in the process for how child abuse is now reported. Any employee that becomes aware of or suspects child abuse must now make that call or make their report electronically on their own first, prior to notification of a building principal. Previously, the employee notified the building principal, and then the building principal made that report. Whereas now, under the new law, that employee must make the report themselves, then notify the building principal, and then follow that up. If they did not make the report electronically the first time, they must follow it up with an electronic report. So it's a significant change in the way we do business as educators and as mandated reporters, but that is the new law that went into effect. And as anyone can probably guess, the new laws have been kind of in discussions as a result of the Stand Up Fee case. So moving on through the policy, when you look at page 4, student abuse no longer exists. There used to be a provision under the law that had a lower threshold for student abuse. That threshold is now eliminated, and any school district employee that's suspected of child abuse is suspected of child abuse, not student abuse. Another provision in this policy is that all employees must have updated clearances every 3 years. And again, that applies to every school district employee on every 3-year basis. They must submit their child abuse, their criminal background check, and their FBI background check to the Human Resources Department. And that's, again, every employee and volunteer. And the other addition then to this policy, or change I should say, would be that volunteers are now considered mandated reporters and also fall under the legislation regarding clearances, where they are subject to that as well. So it loops volunteers in addition to just paid employees. So that is basically, what's the contents of this policy. As I said, it is a complete rewrite. There's no strike throughs because the law has significantly changed. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I have just a question.
Sure.
That with the volunteers, I noticed when you changed the company. How does that, can you maybe clarify, how does that apply to like a parent who just shows up one day to help at a party?
John, did you want?
Per Act 153, they're not going to be allowed to do that July 1st. We're going to have to have criminal clearances, child abuse check.
Just to come in and...
Yeah.
So the days are over. Act 153 just went into effect around December 20th.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I don't, maybe I did get some correspondence in the mail about that. They're going to be sending some out to parents at large.
Well, we're working on that right now.
Okay. Because I think they should be notified about that, because there are a lot. I know
It is
regularly
something
volunteers.
we've had discussions with PTAs about as well.
Yeah.
The principals have already been notified and asked to speak with their PTA presidents. If they attend PTA meetings, I'm sure they're talking about it. They've been asked to talk about it.
Okay. So the ball is in motion. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Sorry. I have a question about, so volunteers, including parents, they have to have all 3 clearances or just a child abuse one?
If they swear that they've resided in Pennsylvania for 10 years, the last 10 years, they don't have to get the FBI check.
They still
So
have
we
to
have
get
a
34
form that we can go with that.
Okay. Well, thank you.
I've taken the child abuse background check a couple times for coaching and things in the past, and it took a couple weeks to get back. Because we're a school district, John, do you have an inside where it gets done quicker, or we just take that long for us to?
No, and as a matter of fact, there's a backlog now because everybody's racing to get their checks done. But they are relatively quick, especially the FBI. As long as you get fingerprinted and you get the number, we can pull that ourselves, that check. And I think the Pennsylvania criminal check is pretty quick. Yeah,
That's electronically
I
instituted.
think it's a child abuse that's the So I know the IU-20 is working on reinstituting the FBI check process. So you won't have to just go to the UPS store in Hellertown. The IU will have a mobile van or something. I don't want to speak for them. I don't know what the process is going to be, but they're going to be able to take their FBI check show on the road.
So, just a point of clarification, is this for, as it said, a regularly scheduled program that everybody who's a volunteer will have to, or is this July 1 that anybody who deals with any child on school property has to have it? For example, if the PTA does a fair at a school, and I walk across the street and I say, I can help, make sure people get tickets and stuff like that, I'm no longer allowed to do that. Unless I've got a criminal background check.
I think what everybody's being counseled by their attorneys is to be cautious, to err on the side of caution as it pertains to students. The law is written in very general terms. John, I don't know if you recall the specific language, but it says something about if you have routine interaction with children,
Direct contact with children.
but also routine interaction. There's the last bullet point.
Well, it's here. I'm looking at care, supervision, guidance, or control of children, or routine interaction with children.
Yeah, so that routine interaction part is making most HR directors and superintendents very cautious. If you're coming to a school like I do to see my kids' music performances, we're not expected,
Right.
But if you're there participating maybe in a book fair, maybe, in some manner where you can have routine interaction, a science fair.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
This is going to be something to work out, but if your contact with kids is incidental, I mean, selling tickets.
Yeah, but what if you're saying, what if I go and they need somebody to run a game? Then I'm running a game, or kids where I'm constantly. I know I'm shifty.
I don't want you to run the
Well, the concern is too, the more exceptions we
I just want to make
on-
sure I understand, because I'm sure people will ask questions.
Well, yeah, and we're in the same boat. This is a new law. We're all trying to understand it. I don't know that the guidance was that great initially. Not saying from you, from the Department of Ed, from the Department of Public Human Services.
Guidance is not that great.
No.
Just going to have to take it a little bit of time here on the side of caution, but try not to apply it to the extent that we're defeating the underlying purpose of education.
I have one point to bring up to the board. I think Mr. Haley, I know it's not required by law, but my personal opinion is, since we're doing this policy, it'd be a good time to add board members into that as well. Again, it's not required by law. I don't have we don't have a direct contact with the kids, but we have swipe cards to get in the buildings. We have meetings in the buildings. Over my last 3 years, I've been in the buildings a lot. I've been around students a lot. I don't think it's a bad thing to require the safe checks for board members.
I mean, we administratively, we cannot require that per the law, but I mean, if you voluntarily want to submit them, maybe to the board secretary or.
So we can't put that in policy? John?
I think it could.
I mean, we're creating the policy.
I'm not so sure I do it right away. I think it'd be better to give us, let someone thought about it. I think the question is not whether or not you could do it, but what would you do if someone showed up with some positive result?
Well, I think I think once it gets out there, people know that there's a background requirement, and you would hope these people wouldn't run, prior. But if they do, it's a good thing that you found out that they have some things on. But I mean, I think it's a good thing, because if I'm voting for somebody and they get elected to the school board and they have criminal charges prior regarding kids or something, I don't want them loose in the building my child is at.
This is not the first time this has come up, so what I suggest is rather than make any kind of an amendment now, let's have administration, to the extent that we can help, see what other commentary, what other experience other boards have had on these requirements. It's not the first time.
No, that's fine.
It's come up.
Can we get that in the next committee meeting just for discussion?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, so
It's
add to committee subject board members or
inclusion of board members in the
inclusion of board members. But if you're talking about our candidates, they're not board members yet. I mean, looking at like the whole state of Pennsylvania, anybody who runs for board.
No, but they would need to know. They would know up front that if they have to submit the background check.
So for the Eastern Area School District, we can require that. As being part of the board.
I think you can require it. I think the question is how does the registration
They hand out all the
Has a
papers.
person and who could just run a background check on you? You have to consent to that usually.
Well,
even if you're
again,
currently on the
that's why I
board,
said-
you're a public
Yeah,
official.
we ought to take a look at it. I'm not sure how it's going to be enforced, or whether there might be any other downside that might have legal implications. But in theory, you can certainly make the requirement broader than required by law.
Right, yeah.
I think we can do it. The question is, should we?
Okay, so noted as per, at the next committee.
We can discuss later how you word it for the agenda.
Yeah, we'll have to
We can do that later.
work out some of the bumps. Okay. Julie, any other questions or policy?
No, just for point of clarification, we won't hang policy 806 up are waiving that discussion, correct?
No.
Okay.
No, this is as is, so this will probably move to
First reading.
first
Okay.
accounts first reading. All right. Thank you. I guess policy 222.
All right. Policy 222, the name of the policy is changed to smoking and tobacco instead of tobacco use. There are just minor changes in this as far as the inclusion of smoking paraphernalia, look-alike products, e-cigarettes, items like that. So that is the change that was made to this policy, was just to kind of broaden the type of implement that we will consider under this policy. Are there any questions about this? This was prompted mostly by discussions about e-cigarettes, but as a result, we had other items that we were able to add in.
Any questions? The only question I have is that I don't see the word vaping in here, which is, that's kind of like the go-to buzz term as far as what I know of this. So,
We didn't use, there's a lot of words that you can use, so by
Yeah.
using the phrase of, it also includes use and or possession of e-cigarettes and other look-alike products,
Yeah.
that encompasses really anything that would be called anything like that.
Yeah, the e-cigarettes I think is pretty much the same. That's just the buzzword.
Sure.
Advertised.
Right.
Used as vaping.
Yep.
So that's okay. Any questions on this? Okay, thank you. So that
Thank you.
leaves us to public to be heard on the on these policy agenda items. Commentary from the public. None noted. Okay. As a summary, policy 806, first reading, is pretty much a complete rewrite of Child Protective Services law that was enacted in Pennsylvania as of the end of the year. Looks like we are going to need, the new training, that's what I'm going to say. New training will be needed in 5 years, and the district has already scheduled the training to be done for all employees for different locations the next in-service meeting. A change in the reporting process, in which reporting goes to the state first as opposed to the principal or administrator. Some change in the language, changing it to all child abuse and not differentiating between student and child abuse. Clearances every 3 years, and volunteers also fall under this these clearance laws as well. And then the policy 222 is just a modification of the tobacco/smoking policy to include e-cigarettes and such look-alike products and paraphernalia.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder.
Thank
Number
you.
5, Buildings and Grounds, Mr. Odie.
Yes, we're going to have, as a presenter, Mr. Salmonetta.
Okay, 2 items on the buildings and grounds. First one is the proposal for the Phase 2 vestibule projects, which will now include renovations at the 5-6 building entrance, the 7-8 building entrance, and Cheston. And I have Josh Grice here from Doing Engineering to present some information. What you have, I got in the place before the meeting was the schematics of the entranceways. We have decided that we're not going to put them up on the screen and make it a public document for audience reasons. So they are, we'll try to explain as best we can with Cheston, and then Josh can fill in some detail. At Cheston, you all know that we added the security guard there. We have a budget that's going to be permanent. It currently sits in a hallway. You enter the 2 doors, and you walk down the hallway to that security room. Originally, there was a room right off to the left, inside the vestibule where the 2 locked doors are, that we were going to renovate, possibly move the offices down there. But that is not cost effective. We were talking about $500,000 to move the whole office down there with the intercom, the technology and everything else, the HVAC. Since we're having a security guard there now, we feel that that room, we're going to partition off an area of that large music room, and that security guard will be based in there, so no one will be in the building without checking through with the security guard.
So it'd be similar to the high school. You walk in,
Yes,
there's a man trapped
yeah,
in the
right.
security guard.
Only there's no, yeah.
Yeah.
The trap will be inside the two locked doors. Now, they still will have access, once they get through security, the security will report that so-and-so is here, and they're to go directly down to the main office, which is still a lot better than what they're doing. 5-6 building, we have 2 sets of doors. One door is locked, and when you go through, the second set of doors is not. You go right through to the security desk. So you get buzzed in from that front door, go through an open door, walk another 25 feet to the security desk and check in. What we want to do is lock both sets of doors. So there's a locked vestibule there, reporting to the security guard, again, to get checked in before you get access to the building. We will also be doing, when you get into that first set of doors, to the left is going into the office. That door will also have a keypad entry as well. And similar situation with the 7-8 building. Go in the first set of doors, walk through to the security desk. Now those doors will, both sets of doors will be locked. There won't be a confined locked vestibule, as opposed to only one door. Once you get through that first door, getting access to the building. Did I miss anything?
Also at Shawnee, we're
sorry.
adding some capability at Shawnee for the same type of setup that exists elsewhere.
When Shawnee, we didn't do Shawnee because when Shawnee was built, there was an area for a security guard. There's no longer a security guard there. So people have to come into the office. And we're just going to add a few things there. We're going into the office and then being locked where you can't get back out into the building.
Because this is phase 2, we're not going through the whole process again, we're just going to essentially do a change in
Well,
work order?
yeah, essentially the contract with Penn Builders is still open. So what we'll be asking you to do, and I gave you the revised one, we're looking at an estimate of about $198,000 to do all this. What I'll be asking at the end of the discussion is to move forward at the board meeting in January to approve a change order for these renovations with the current contract with Penn Builders.
One question I have, Joshua and Mike, we discussed Chester, right? And that one door was put in, but there was no swipe access or anything on it. Is that done? Walk in to the right, each upstairs, downstairs?
Oh, the one to the,
Right.
to the stairwell.
The stair tower, that will be addressed as part of.
So that's going to be addressed in phase 2?
Yeah.
So, at the completion of phase 2, we shouldn't have any security issues or lack of security issues in any of our buildings, correct?
What phase 2, and I hesitate to call it phase 2 because, technically this is still part of the original contract that we started. This was not a separately bid project because it's part and parcel of what was already started. So I just wanted to clarify that. What this scope of work would do is move the personnel, security personnel, administrative personnel, directly into the vestibule space as opposed to having a remote entry, a remote capability to entry. Okay, so I certainly can't say it's a cure-all for any security issue that might pop up, but...
Not that, but I mean, the entrance security, we have issues.
No, I think, Frank, the intent of what we were starting to do last year with the vestibule project, it shores up the access of the campus, and it certainly shores up the access, the ease of access at Cheston, now that they're no longer in the building before they check in.
And that's, I apologize. The access, the security as far as access, that will not be an issue as it is today once this phase is done.
What it does is it eliminates an unsupervised visitor from coming into the building and going elsewhere instead of checking in at the appropriate location, which is the office, or with a security agent.
Now, another question I have, Josh doesn't want to call it a phase 2, more of a continuation of phase 1. Do we still have a phase 2 there that's going to be outstanding?
Now, we were just labeling the phase 2. I think we I think we addressed what our original intent of the vestibule upgrades with this.
So my question is, once this is done, this is all complete, we're not gonna have another phase that we need to pay for?
No, I think we're,
When we initially presented the vestibule revisions, we had kind of laid it out as a recommended initial phase, which is, the vestibule project. It was kind of open-ended and ultimately up to the district what type of additional measures might be looked at in the future. We talked about additional exterior cameras, possibly replacement of cameras that are kind of, on their last leg, so to speak.
But I guess-
It wasn't a well-defined scope.
But those are like
it open.
additions.
That would be something separate.
Of phase one and the phase two. So when this is done, that's the end of it, unless we want to do additional things.
Anything else is going to be new.
Right, no.
And the following.
And the other point, Frank, was that any future phases would be integrated into the software platform that was implemented as part of phase one. So if you were to add cameras at any building, they could all be brought into and viewed on a common workstation.
But that's above and beyond the.
Right,
the
because we-
okay.
yeah, what he's getting at is
But what
just
we
we built
first
the
pitched
system
for phase
to-
1 and 2, after this, that would be fixed.
Right.
And then anything else would be new stuff additional.
Yeah, I think what Josh is getting to is that the original system was built for expansion.
Right, okay.
Then we have to decide moving forward.
Right.
Okay, so when the initial bidding was done, it didn't include all this work.
No, it did not.
So does that not make it like a new project? Because when you start to look at the dollars, you're talking $200,000 here. The initial project was 1 point, how much?
4.
Well, the estimate was 1.5, it came in as 1.36, something like that.
So it's about 1/6 of the size. Did they use all the additional funds that were in there too?
There was a credit change order of $70,000 that went back to the district. Last time I was here, I think we presented that.
So we didn't use all that money.
Correct. Right. That was contingency money that would have gone back to the district. So ultimately, the net impact of the contract amount is actually about $130,000.
I guess I have to look to the solicitor and say, when you have these projects, because could not somebody else sit out there that bid on the first one and turn around and say, I didn't know about this, if I would have done,
Well, I don't know that I don't know if the challenge would come from there. If there would be a bidding question, it would come from the auditor, some from public challenge, perhaps. But I don't think we'd be standing for a bidder to come back here. Challenge. The question whether this qualifies or not on the spot. You're right. As the add-ons grow bigger, it becomes more and more like a project. Now, the other thing that we looked at, and frankly, I'm not sure what the status of it. This is not a Plan-Com project, is it?
No, it's not.
Okay, if it were a Plan-Com project, that would be something else. That would be another source for the department to scrutinize.
What I can do is I can ask our solicitor to research further. I can also put a call to the auditor, and either way, I'd like to come to the January meeting with a motion to move forward with this or to drop the bid.
Right.
Yeah, I think we really need that because
I think Bob made a great point. I mean, 200,000. Why not bid it out and see if we can get that low? So that's a good thing.
I mean, what's disappointing about this whole thing is when this pool was designed over there, it was designed with the security in mind, which was never, I'll say, implemented or anything, and now we're having to pay for it again, which is a real shame.
Josh, is there, again, not to dispute trying to save money, are there, if we don't have to bid, are there ordering timing issues going through the bid process?
Well, there would be lead time. The longer you would approve it, obviously, the longer the lead time.
We'll get more to the February meeting.
Right. I mean, everything would simply move back a month. If you're on a holding pattern for a month, that would not.
It'd still be okay.
It'd still be okay. Yeah. And just to clarify, I'm not sure how much, I actually just received the updated pricing today, so I apologize if it hasn't been disseminated in a timely manner. But in addition to the cover page, which I think Mr. Simonetta distributed, there's a pretty voluminous amount of backup material that provides the justification for the pricing. So it's a combination of...
I didn't present that.
Okay, yeah, it's about 25 pages of backup
This is just a summary.
pricing,
Okay.
item by item where it came from. So, if it were to be scrutinized, there's certainly plenty of backup documentation.
Well, I guess my thing is, since, the beginning with bidding, I'm not saying, Penn Builder, for example, or West Side Hamburg can't back it up. I'm not saying they're inflated numbers. But, the economy still isn't great. There might be another company that is willing to do it for a little less. So, I think it's good to bid it out, see if we can get the same quality work at a better price for the district.
And I think if, you go to the auditor or, John, even from you, I think both opinions ought to be put in writing so that we have them that way. Because if anybody ever comes back, we have their opinion in writing.
Well, before you go to the auditor, let's talk.
Okay.
Is there a consent to it?
That's it for that. Now, the second part is what we will be going to bid for if the board approves. We have, with everybody, I don't think a lot of board members here have been part of the original capital improvement plan that we started years ago. But there's a couple items on there that are kind of pertinent and need to be addressed. There were a list of, I have about 6 or 7 items that we need to start taking a look at addressing.
Do we have a handout on that?
What's that? No, I'm just going to read these off, because it's only 2 items. Okay? And Josh is going to present the roofing thing. But anyway, the main items we determined to start looking at are the second chiller at the high school, the roof at Tracy Elementary, fire alarm panel at Forks Elementary, demolition of old warehouse across from Cheston, replacement of roof at Forks Elementary.
Mike, 2 items? No, hold it.
No, this is, bear with me, these are like our main items. I'm going to come back with 2 items just to talk to you about getting your opinion if you want to move forward with going out to bid for the summer project.
So we can get this full list and have more discussion.
Sure.
Next meeting?
Yep.
Okay.
Replacement of clock system at Paxinosa, refurbishing of the pool, and that's it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What we thought about that are high on the priority list for this summer is the fire alarm panel at Forks Elementary and replacement of roof, soffit, and gutters at Forks Elementary. The slate roof, we're having a lot of leaks over there. In fact, if you want to go through the roofing issues at Forks and the fire alarm panel.
Sure, I will. Briefly, I didn't include anything with the fire alarm panel. That's something that can be purchased by the district directly through state contract from a vendor. There's really no need for us to get involved with that. Certainly, I think the quickest, cheapest, easiest way would be for the district to purchase the needed upgraded panel directly from a vendor. What I will talk about tonight briefly is the other item for Forks that we discussed, which is the partial roof replacement. This would be the original section of the building, which currently has the original slate roof, if you can believe that. And if you can hit the next slide, actually. This is the back of that original section, and as Mr. Case can tell you, and I think you can see it on the PowerPoint, these little patches here are locations where the original slate tiles have actually slid off the roof and punctured the lower roof below it. So it's time to really consider replacement of that original sloped roof section and also address the ongoing leaks that have resulted by the problems with that adjacent sloped roof. So, we would propose this as a summer project. The initial project budget, I would recommend $350,000 for the replacement of that sloped roof, and additionally about a 3,000 square foot area of the flat roof directly below it. Okay. So it could be out in design and bid in the February-March timeframe, and hopefully make the award at the April board meeting. That would allow time to get the contracts in place, to get submittals, to get material ordered, so that as soon as classes break for the summer, the contractor will be ready to come in and get the job knocked out.
Yeah, and to answer your question, Bob, what we talked about administratively is resurrecting this capital improvement plan and all the projects. We're looking at this as an important, immediate issue, and to try to slate for this summer. The fire alarm panel, we can do, you said order it and do it ourselves. But the other items, I don't know if it's a full committee, a full board, or a subcommittee to look. I mean, it's a long, involved capital improvement plan. Start looking and identifying projects, including the money that's in the capital projects debt fund for Paxinosa. I remember when I first got here a couple of years ago, there were a laundry list of items that we were still had planned to do for Paxinosa. And again, with everything going on, this got put off, and I'd really like to resurrect the committee to start looking at that and make recommendations to the whole board. Maybe a subcommittee. So, what I'd like to do, what I'd like to ask of the committee is to move forward to put together a big package for that partial roof replacement. Well, if the consensus is to move forward for the agenda for January, yes.
Any objections to moving forward?
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
If I can take one step back, John, where you were talking about getting with Mike and looking at that on whether to bid or not. The only concern I have is when the state auditors come in, right? We can have a legal opinion, but we can also have a state auditor opinion, because if they look at it differently, who wins out in that kind of a case?
Well, I don't think that, the state auditors aren't going to answer the question.
No, it's going to be your local to answer it. They're just going to audit the books though later.
Right, and who knows, whether their opinion is the same.
So I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Being a security professional, is it possible, I understand that we have to keep the public aware of what we're doing in the district, but when we talk about vital points and vulnerabilities of our buildings, is it possible that we can discuss that privately?
In my opinion, that's clearly the case. Now, a few months ago, we had come up in the paper. I hold to my opinion at that time. I don't know another lawyer who counsels schools who would not agree with this. That when we started to discuss specifics of security plans or devices and so forth that may compromise safety of the students or the faculty, then that is a bona fide issue for executive session under the confidentiality, general confidentiality exception. So yes. We don't have to risk the safety of our kids and our teachers for the sake of compliance with the section. We can go into executive session. And we start talking broadly about how much it costs, whether or not to do it in the first place. That's a different issue. We're talking about specific things that the general knowledge of which could open us up to, or basically defeat the purpose of the security in the first place. Yes, that's something that we can do.
Pretty much we're saying we're vulnerable at, we're going to say 3 months, 4 months down the road we're going to fix it. That doesn't settle with me. I don't know how everybody else feels, but
Well, I think just to answer that point, we aired on that early on. Everybody, that was all talked about out in the open then. That's why we started with, we're not going to put the plans up, and I was just letting, because I think, at this point, I think there's a lot of concern of the public of the way it is now. They know that, and the concern. So I just wanted to bring it up and get it moving. But moving forward, based on conversation with John, it's been about it.
Any public we heard? Buildings and grounds? Seeing none. Summary, discussed the vestibule renovation items, capital projects that's going to be done in the summer of 2015. Also, roof repair on Forks, and that's about it.
Thank you, Mr. Obie. Career finance, Mr. Fainall.
And you're going to send that to me.
Oh, yeah, well, so Mike, let's see how fast we can cover all the material and get through it.
We can do it real fast. I just need a motion not to exceed the index.
And that is the one thing that must be on that.
Yeah,
That will be on the agenda too.
Right, right.
if I could just, remind the board, people that weren't here, when we negotiated in the summer, last summer with the teachers, the agreement was we would go to index but not exceed it for this upcoming year, this last year. That was one of the reasons they agreed to help out as well. So we're trying to, we don't have to go above the index, but we to at least go there. We have to vote at the next meeting on that because we have to let the state know our intentions. So everybody's still there, correct?
Mike, you want to go on with this?
No, I'm fine. Listen, the game plan is to do that, approve the budget in May, the preliminary budget in April, final budget in May. What I'd like to do, if you're okay, is at the March meeting, I will have the full documents, the budget, to give to you for your information. But in essence, we are going to be able to balance the budget with no deficit, so now, with the money we said we were going to take from surplus, and we'd go into index. And that's where we're at. And in the next 2 months, we're going to talk about how we can move things around and maybe afford the implementation of that full year. That's like we're not priority for this budget.
Thank you.
And you guys have questions on this stuff? Something Not now, give me a call. So Frank can enjoy.
So everybody's fine with that, then we don't have to go through these details right now.
All right.
More details come March. Right? You said March. So next month, on the agenda, I'll summarize and I'll ask the public too at the same time. So next month, or next 2 weeks, we will have on the agenda that we'll take a vote on not exceeding the cap this year. Any comments from public? Hearing none. Any other questions for Mike? If not, we only have the one line item that's moving forward to the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Fainall. Before I adjourn, we are not having an executive session tonight. We don't need it, so everybody can go home, except you, if you can stay back. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
What about number 7?
Oh, I'm sorry. Anyone from College Hill who has a non-agenda item? I'm sorry, folks.
I just want to say that I think it's great that they're going to train all the employees on child abuse the day before they send them on those 43 buses. Good job. Good thinking.
And I do apologize. Any public can be heard on non-agenda item. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Second? All those in favor?
Aye.